I'll also mention that we're in close contact with our locating companies. So we encourage everybody, if anybody's doing any kind of dig activities, please call the 811 system. We're coordinating very closely so that they can get out as quickly as they can to mark the area where any kind of excavation is going to be done. So that's the process where they put the orange, at least for communications, the orange stakes and the orange paint on the ground to identify them. So we are trying our best to make sure that the whole industry that's involved with the fiber optics and the other utilities as well are utilizing the 811 process.
And I think education with the teams that are on the ground of what's happened and can happen as well would be helpful.
Commissioner Eccles, I would kind of echo it, but also, you have to imagine you've got a lot of this power that is down, and a lot of the fiber is on poles, utility poles as well. And so as they're clearing their right-of-ways, I mean, obviously they're just trying to get it up as quick as they can. So I sympathize with them. But then, sometimes in order to get it up as quick as you can, you just cut through fiber. And we don't know necessarily where that fiber is supplying. So I don't know if there's a way, and I honestly don't know what the MCs or any power companies that have their own fiber, I don't know how they're working around that with their own fiber if they're able to. I don't know. They might have a suggestion for that, like Rich said, after the storm. But I do know it is happening to some of our members, not just power companies, but as they're clearing the streets, even. So.
All right. Well, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah, that is. Next is T-Mobile.
Yeah, good afternoon, Commissioner, and thank you all for your time. My name is Craig Martinez. I'm the National Public Safety Advisor for T-Mobile. And like most of the country, I watched tragic events unfold from afar. So our thoughts and prayers are with you and your families at this time. As a retired chief of police, I understand a lot of work goes into this, and there's a lot more to be done. So thank you all for your patience. Part of what I do here at T-Mobile, me and my team, is I oversee the national efforts for public safety strategy and disaster response. And when looking at the state of Georgia and T-Mobile, we're looking at our facilities, obviously, prior to the event and after as well. Our actual facility sustained very little damage, but we obviously, like my counterparts at the other carriers, we're heavily impacted by loss of commercial power and the backhaul between, connections between our sites. Some of kind of the areas that the sites in Clinton and Lincoln counties suffered physical damage. All the other impacts to our network were only due to mainly a loss of power. And I'm going to repeat a couple things that our counterparts have already said, but we're all kind of in that same boat. As of this morning, T-Mobile has largely restored coverage in most areas. Again, as we recover power and backhaul and our partners work on those connections individually, experiences may differ. When we talk about downed sites, because the total in Georgia, we have around 452 sites. This was as of this morning from the DERS report, by the way. About 23% of those, 103 were down. That doesn't mean there's no overlapping coverage in those areas. So you may see some degraded connectivity based on that need. And we do have 53 of those up on portable generator. Obviously, we have a lot of the sites hardened with fixed generators and batteries as well. T-Mobile, we pre-positioned and utilized our national emergency management assets, as well as from our national emergency support vendor with Infinity Communications. And obviously, we're working closely with our state, local, and federal partners with the full barnyard of sack colts, cows, Wi-Fi trailers, and things like that, drones that can also deliver payloads if need be. We have 3 teams working for T-Mobile: emergency response, which is my team, emergency management, and then our community support teams that are out and about providing food, water, and charging stations for the community there in some of the affected areas. Progress has been tremendous, but like our counterparts in wireless, we continue to work around the clock. But right now, we're not really able to predict when complete restoration is going to be achieved. Looking at the DERS report from this morning, it's roughly about 80% restored. And so we're making strides every hour, not just days here. Every hour, we're making more and more strides at getting all of those areas affected back up and running. As far as contact with T-Mobile, One of the things I recommend is going to T-Mobile.com if there's any needs. You can also call 611 as a T-Mobile customer to talk to customer care. We have an 800 number. It's 800-937-8997. And we also point everyone to our newsroom posts that are updated daily. And it actually has a archived position of where it's actually been. And then for the disaster response side of the house, we do have a 24/7, 365 monitored number at 888-639-0020, or you can email requests to ertrequests@t-mobile.com. And that's really all I have to report, Commissioner. Open to any questions folks may have.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Any questions for T-Mobile? I see Commissioner Eccles.
Yes, I know Commissioner Pridemore had raised this point about bill credits for service outage. And I know sometimes, companies like Xfinity, they require you to actually reach out to them and then they'll give you credit. I just wonder if Verizon and T-Mobile and AT&T on the cell service, the affected areas, which towers were down. I wonder if you could just do an automatic credit for these customers as opposed to making them have to call you after the fact and try to go through customer service with maybe long hold times as a result of people trying to reach back out. Is that a possibility that y'all could say and tell us right now that you could give them a day or 5 or 7 or whatever the outage is automatically without the customer having to reach out?
That's a great idea, sir. And I'll actually check with the team to see, one, if it's already happening, and two, if not, what do we need to make that happen? So great call out. Appreciate that.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you again, Mr. Martinez. Appreciate what y'all are doing. Moving on. Next is Windstream.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
Apologize for the informal office. Michael Four, President of Operations.
I'm just glad you could join us because I know you're out in the field working. So appreciate you joining us this afternoon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for that. President of Operations for Kinetic by Windstream here in Georgia. Everybody's done a great job of summing it up. We do have a significant amount of impact in that region, that southeast portion. Have just a little bit left in Rabun County that we should have up before long. Initially, we had about 140,000 customers impacted by it. We've been able to drop that by about 110,000 over the last few days. So a lot of work's been going on, a lot of positive work. We've been working closely with our, backhaul. That was one of the first things we wanted to do with the cell tower providers because, we understood the urgency there. And we are working now on continuing to get more granular and get to the household level. The amount of devastation is just truly impactful in our ability to recover too quickly. We've already worked in front of the debris being cleaned up and the poles being repaired. So the care that can be taken on not cutting those fibers again is truly appreciated there. We've had that happen several times over the last couple of days, and that's a great point to bring out. But please don't take that as any indication to the cooperation going on in the field, because the cooperation going on in the field between these teams is remarkable as we work to recover. So we have brought in teams. We've got all our construction yards across Georgia and the southeast. We brought in teams from all over to support us. Plus the hundreds of employees that we have that live in these communities that were impacted. So everybody's working hard to get it restored. We've got a normal refueling process schedule in line for the areas that we have on generator. Just continuing to work hard. So willing to field any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Four?
Michael, if you could tell folks how to reach Kinetic Windstream, please.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Sorry, I missed that point. 2 points I missed, really. One, One is we have suspended all disconnects. Number two is the number is 1-800-326-6314. And our customers can also use the Go Kinetic app to communicate with us.
Well, any other questions? Well, Michael, I know, Windstream's a major provider here in our region that's affected by the storm, and I just want to thank y'all for all your efforts. And I know that especially the efforts going on in terms of coordinating, because I've been a part of a little bit of that as well, and it's been it's been one of the things that will make you smile in these events is how well that's going, and I appreciate that. And that starts with your team.
Yes, sir.
And we all understand that the first step is getting the poles back up and the power restored, and then you guys but y'all are coming in right behind them. I mean, I'm using Lakeland as an example here because that's where I'm sitting. Obviously, y'all see my front yard behind me in the background, so there's definitely no power there. But here in the towns, y'all were able to get the essentials connected just right behind the power companies, and I wouldn't be able to sit here today. I would have had to get real creative. If this call had been about 3 hours earlier, I would not be on.
Yes.
So thank y'all. Any other questions?
No.
And Michael, is there anything else that we can do at the commission to assist or that you can think of?
No, thank you for the opportunity to share. I think it's just important that everyone understands it's a process,
And it's going to take some time.
It's going to take some time. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank
Yeah.
you for that.
And we're going to have to be patient. Folks are going to have to be patient because we're going to be seeing some wires on the ground for a while around here. So it's going to take some time.
Yes.
But thank you, Michael, as always.
Well, thank you.
Next, we'll move on. And this, I think, is going to be the final. So we're getting close to the end. Georgia Cable Association.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Hunter Hopkins here with the Georgia Cable Association. Thank y'all for letting us participate. Kind of find it funny that we're the last ones on the agenda because we're usually the last ones to get up on the polls. So appreciate the opportunity to speak to y'all today and update you on the efforts of the cable industry to restore communication services to our customers around the state. As I mentioned, my name is Hunter Hopkins. I serve as the executive director of the Georgia Cable Association. Since our founding in 1968, the Cable Association has been the voice of the cable industry in the state of Georgia. Our members provide high-speed broadband, video, and voice service to about 2.1 million customers spread across 129 counties of our state. Our member companies include Charter, Comcast, Cox, Mediacom, and Vive Broadband. I want to briefly update you on our cable company's efforts to restore service to our customers after the destruction caused by Hurricane Helene. After my comments, I've got some representatives from some of our member companies that can give you some specific updates on what their companies are doing to restore their customers. There's really three key issues that I want to address this afternoon. Number one is, what is cable doing to restore service and bridge the gap of the service disruptions? Number two, power restoration and access to the damaged areas. And number three, protecting existing infrastructure. First, our cable companies have comprehensive emergency response plans in place to ensure that we are ready with the staff, equipment, and resources to respond as soon as possible after a storm. Our companies are marshaling crews, trucks, generators, fuel, and material ahead of the storm so we can access the affected areas and mitigate the impact to our customers as safely and quickly as possible. And we have well-established systems to communicate with our customers about their service through their preferred method of communication, whether that be text, email, social media, or personal phone call, before and after the storm and throughout the restoration process. Since the storm hit, the cable industry has been working diligently to restore service to the affected areas. Key efforts include deploying crews to assess and repair damaged infrastructure, such as downed plant and damaged network infrastructure. Cable companies are utilizing drones and advanced technology to expedite damage assessment and prioritize restoration efforts. Communication with customers is a priority, with regular updates on restoration progress shared via social media and direct messaging. In addition, many of our providers are offering temporary solutions like portable Wi-Fi hotspots to ensure customers stay connected while repairs are underway. Cable companies have opened a total of about 180,000 hotspots to the public in Georgia, whether they are customers or not. The cable industry as you've previously heard, the cable industry is heavily reliant on commercial electric power, whether it be the power supply to our network infrastructure, the plant located on utility poles or buried in conduits underground, or the power in each of our customers' homes or businesses. In some cases, our industry must wait for the electrical infrastructure to be restored before we can gain access to start repairing our cable network. As we've seen with this most recent storm and previous ones, commercial power can sometimes, understandably, take a long time to be restored based on the severity of the damage in some areas. I would also note that power outages in one area can impact broadband video and voice service to customers in another area. Not surprisingly, in many cases, our networks aren't aligned with the power grid. You might have cases where our network is operable, but due to power loss at the customer's location, they can't access our services. In other scenarios, the customer might have power, but the power to our network infrastructure, such as a node or a hub, might be without power, causing our network to be inoperable. Whatever the circumstances, power restoration is a critical component of the cable industry restoring service to our customers. Likewise, gaining access to damaged areas is a top priority. Our emergency crews must appropriately wait for the roads to be cleared and opened before they can safely proceed to repair our facilities. Collaboration and coordination with local authorities and the electric utilities is critical. Our companies are working hard to connect with these parties on the ground so we can coordinate our efforts to restore services as efficiently as possible. We welcome any opportunity to be included in construction meetings with the electric providers so that we can know when and where electric service is being restored so we can come in right behind them. Lastly, the protection of existing operational facilities is a critical challenge for our members. While our plant has sustained physical damage from the storm, we see in some cases that the storm itself has not damaged our plant. It can be repaired as poles are corrected and debris is cleared, but that undamaged plant is sometimes cut by tree crews and others working to clear the roads during the restoration process, assuming incorrectly that our infrastructure is not operational. This adds to the damage that our companies must repair and can compound customer outages. Again, collaboration with local authorities, power companies, and their contractors working to clear debris goes a long way towards avoiding this unnecessary damage and service disruption. We'd appreciate assistance from everyone here in educating their crews and calling our companies for help before they cut a cable line. Overall, the cable company industry is focused on quickly restoring service while ensuring customer support throughout the recovery efforts. I know I've covered some very broad issues facing our industry as we work to restore service to the affected areas. The Cable Association's members can update you on their activities in their particular service areas across the state. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Daryl Cheney with Mediacom.
Thank you, Chairman Shaw. Appreciate you allowing Mediacom to join the briefing. My name is Daryl Cheney. I'm the Senior Director of Area Operations down here in Valdosta. We, just like everyone else has discussed, we have a emergency plan that we are working right now to work to help out our customers and our communities that we serve. Mediacom basically serves Southwest Georgia. We're 29 counties that we serve. From the Alabama line to the I-75 corridor and the Florida line north to Columbus and just south of Warner Robins. So we have about 330 employees here in Georgia, serving 15 office areas. We have probably about 25% of those employees are right now engaged in our worst heavily hit areas on the I-75 corridor between Valdosta and just south of Warner Robins Perry area, just a little bit to the east side of the interstate. So that I-75 corridor for us was probably about 25% of our customer base that is impacted by the major storm that came through. For Valdosta, one of the largest areas that was hit for us is following the same path last year as Idalia. So we're working together with all of our public and private partners, trying to restore services as quickly as possible. And we basically understand the path because we worked real hard last year to restore services. And we have Mediacom has brought in internal crews from multiple states, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, the Midwest, with Iowa and Missouri, and even the Northeast down from Delaware, bringing in internal employees to come out and help us. We have 12 contract crews that are on the ground now working with restorations, and we have access to another 50 crews once we are able to gain access a little bit more following our power company partners and allowing us access. So we are really appreciative of what's going on here in South Georgia, and we're really happy with the partnerships that we're seeing, and really proud of the people that are out there and working. So Mediacom had about 33,000 customers offline at the peak of the storm over the weekend. About 60% of those have been restored. We still have about 14,000 customers that are offline in that I-75 corridor from Valdosta north to Fitzgerald to Eastman, McRae, Hazelhurst, just on the east side of Interstate 75. Just in the last 24 hours, we restored 2,000 more customers to provide high-speed internet, cable television, and telephone services. Within that restoration, we have a plan to continue to gain access and get those 14,000 customers up and running, working basically between Valdosta, the Valdosta office, a Tifton office, and a Fitzgerald office, where we have 3 command centers to support the communities here in Southwest Georgia. We have supply chain has basically been taken care of. We have national warehouses in the Midwest and in Georgia. So we have all the materials on hand. We have about 200 miles of network damage that we're going to be able to repair with the materials that are already in the state. And we're working to restore that. We believe we'll get another 2,000 customers back on today, and then that again over tomorrow and the weekend, working with our partners. We're really rural, so we have a lot of rural areas, a lot of rural customers, just like your area there in Lanier County. So in Lowndes County, Lanier County, Berrien County, Tift County, we're really focusing our efforts to get the city centers up and running, and then working out into the rural communities. Also, as a partnership, we have 80 mobile community Wi-Fi areas in Valdosta. 40 of those are currently up and running. 48 of those are currently up and running. The communities can look at our Mediacom website to get the locations for those community Wi-Fi hotspots, MediacomCable.com, or they can call us at one of our 24-hour support centers. National number is 855-633-4226. So we believe that we have a good plan in place. It is going to be a long road, just like we've all been discussing. The reliance on commercial power is very important to our success, and that team cooperation of finding out when the power companies are clear, when everything is safe for us to go in and enter is really a big part of our communication plan. We've been in touch with our power partners, and they've been able to help us out with streets that they're in and streets that they're moving away from. And that communication we want to continue to improve, continue to increase. That's really going to help us to provide internet and television services to the community. That's becoming more of a necessity than it used to be. So it's vital to that. And then we're also increasing our communication with our municipalities, just to make sure that we understand how traffic is moving through the streets. And we actually have times where we've been able to have street closures because of the roads and the vehicles moving on roads. has really been a challenge when cars are driving potentially the speed limit or faster, and there's a lot of debris. So working with our city engineers and working with the traffic managers has really been helpful for us. And we're going to continue to try to do that as we work to improve and get these last 14,000 customers online. So that's basically what I have, and can take questions.
Okay, thank you, Daryl. Any questions? Okay.
I've got a question for Hunter. Hey, Hunter,
Hello.
you mentioned that you talked about this phenomena of that cables equipment on the pole might be okay, but that the pole itself is damaged and is being replaced, and the cable companies don't have a method to go out and retrieve their good working equipment. How prevalent is that? And I guess why not? Why don't we have something in place to allow the cable company to go retrieve working equipment on a permanently damaged pole?
Oh, Commissioner, it's mainly the plant. And you heard AT&T and then Rhonda Chatham and some of the other providers mention, at times our existing fiber lines or older cable coaxial cable lines are on the poles. The pole might come down, but technically the line is still intact. But as some of the crews are coming in to clear the debris from the roads, they'll end up cutting it as kind of I guess Commissioner Eccles mentioned, is there some way to kind of tag it or somewhere, some type of system like that? I mean, unfortunately, we aren't the first ones on the scene in a case like this. We're having to wait our turn, before we get in, before we can get in and assess the situation.
Okay, you're saying it's the same issue that the phone
Yes, ma'am.
guys have. All right.
Yes, ma'am. Pretty much. Yes, ma'am.
You said it differently. It made me think this was a separate issue. So,
No,
okay.
it's the same thing.
This issue that we've been talking about today has been with us since the pole was invented and erected.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's the high voltage guys are the ones that operate and manage that pole. So we get it.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, next we have Comcast.
Okay, go ahead, Amy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Amy Averill, and I'm Vice President of Regulatory Affairs for Comcast. And I truly appreciate this opportunity to share with you all the hard work that our employees and business partners have been doing 24 hours a day, as everyone else on the call, since Helene struck Georgia. Just a brief background, Comcast provides video, broadband, and voice services in approximately 70 counties in Georgia, including Metro Atlanta, Augusta, Savannah, Brunswick, and Northwest Georgia. More than 3.1 million Georgia homes and businesses have access to our services, and they're delivered through nearly 78,000 network miles in the state. And we employ approximately 4,000 people in the state. As Hunter mentioned, our preparations in advance of Helene included staging emergency generators and fuel trucks and bringing in additional technical and network restoration teams to be deployed promptly to impacted areas. So, as we've all discussed, we saw the storm coming and we all put our emergency preparedness plans into play. Comcast now has more than 350 response crew from all over the Southeast and and Chicago and Detroit working in rotation for 24-hour coverage for all areas of impact in Georgia. And at last count, they estimate replacing more than 120 miles of fiber and cable. With respect to the damage and customer outages that Comcast has experienced, I want to focus on our hardest hit areas, which are Augusta and Savannah. In the immediate aftermath of the storm, first off, Comcast sustained significant damage to our facilities in these areas, primarily to our aerial spans. Approximately 64% of our customers in the Savannah area, which includes 9 surrounding counties, had lost service. As of this morning, service to at least 66% of those customers had been restored. And as I think everyone knows, Augusta was hit harder. More than 90% of our customers in an 8-county area in and around Augusta lost service. As of this morning, nearly 25% of those customer service is back online. Our response teams have really made significant progress over the last several days, but as discussed, emergency management procedures dictate that electricity must be restored first, and Comcast must receive clearance that it's safe for crews to begin any restoration work. We certainly are working in tandem with the local utility companies and local authorities to restore connectivity once electricity returns to homes and businesses as quickly as we can. In fact, we have stationed a Comcast employee in the GEMA Emergency Operations Center out of Augusta, so that we can learn as quickly as possible what others are doing, where services are being restored, so that we can coordinate our efforts. I don't want to belabor the point because it has been mentioned numerous times, but I did want to say that Comcast has also experienced numerous instances of accidental cuts to our fiber lines, including those that have been newly repaired, including as recently as this afternoon to today. Improved coordination among all the parties, I think, could really help us avoid these unnecessary and compounding damages. And we look forward to exploring additional solutions in the future. Finally, I'd just like to mention briefly that as many of the utilities on this call have done, Comcast have distributed, employees have distributed more than 20 pallets of water to the communities of Augusta. And we announced today that the company is contributing $100,000 to the United Way of the Central Savannah River area and $50,000 to the Salvation Army Savannah Corps to support ongoing disaster relief and recovery efforts. And in addition to the relief funds, Comcast is donating significant advertising time for public service announcements in Georgia to keep customers, their families, and loved ones informed on the latest developments following the storm. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share Comcast's efforts. Our crews are working around the clock until services are restored, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Pridemore.
Amy, since you brought it up again, I've got an obvious question. Why in the world would cable or telephone go try to restore service in an area before power was already restored? So, for example, if you've went in and replaced a line and power hasn't been restored yet, you know that the line's not going to work. Why? In my experience, cable and telephone follows power, not goes in ahead of it. So these multiple cuts, it doesn't make sense to me.
Commissioner, I think these are in areas, I would definitely want to explore this a little further, but I do believe that these are areas where the power has been restored, because you're right, we do not go in until everything is safe and power is restored and that there are not, lines down on the ground. But I think there is still a lot of clearing debris that happens. But we are still trying to get our services up and running as quickly as possible. So I think that's an issue. Plus, there is the issue that Hunter raised also with respect to, it might not even be a newly repaired line. It might be a line that was, intact and not damaged and service was not disconnected, but got cut because of the remediation efforts and clearing efforts.
That I get, because that's just been a beast that's been with us since the concept of shared poles. But the repeated cutting of a line that's a new line, it's not gelling with me. I would love to talk to a technician that could tell me why. And I'm not singling you out, but it could be yours at Cutter. It could be any of y'all's. It could be one of Rich's or what have you. But to lay a line and then have it repeatedly cut, I don't know, it just doesn't I need operational guidance on that. But thank you, Amy.
All right.
I
Anyone
want to
else?
follow up on that if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
When you go back, Amy, and the line is repaired, it's not repaired and left laying on the ground. Isn't it repaired and put back up on the pole?
In a lot of cases, Commissioner, these are temporary lines that may be on the ground. They may be awaited. They might actually have been, well, I might need to go get back a little and get a little more detail, but I think that some of them could be waiting to be buried or hung up on poles while we're awaiting the new pole to be set. I think there are a variety of different facts and circumstances, but I do know that this is in an effort to try to restore our services as quickly as possible once power in the area has been restored. Again, I mean, Commissioner Pridemore is absolutely right that we're not going into areas where power hasn't at least come through.
Well, even if it's a temporary line, if it's going back up on the pole, and the cuts that you're having, is it more expensive to just go ahead and attach it to the pole? So maybe not quite as high as the pole attachment contracts allow, but I'm just at a loss that you would repair it and it would still be laying on the ground unless it was going to be buried. And if it was going to be buried, it would show where it was buried back up here somewhere. And
I believe this.
That's for you smart people to work out.
I will look into that further.
Well, thank you, Amy. Thank you for joining us. And do we have anyone else from cable that wanted to speak?
Yes, sir. Catherine Fleming with Charters on the line, Chairman.
Oh, hey, good afternoon, Catherine.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Thank you so much for having Charter to talk about this important topic. My name is Catherine Fleming. I'm the State Director of Government Affairs for Charter here in Georgia. As most of you know, Charter is a leading provider of broadband, voice, and video services, and we operate in 41 states. Here in Georgia, Charter serves roughly a third of the counties in the state with more than 400,000 customers and 740 employees. The furthest south our market goes is Lawrence County. And so because of that, we were not as impacted as a number of the utilities that have spoken so far on this call. In regard to Helene, Charter's hardest hit markets, right, were Lawrence County, Washington County, and Clark County. Given the track of the storm, we were fortunate to have most of our infrastructure escape the worst of the damage. However, where we were impacted, we're working as quickly as possible, as others have noted, to get services in impacted areas back up online, coordinating with GMA, local EMAs, governments, and power companies. Our teams have been staged and are ready to quickly assess damages as soon as areas are deemed safe and make repairs to restore service to our impacted customers as power is returned, as we've discussed. Charter understands the impact of being without service has, and we continue to provide updates to our customers via their preferred method of communication, text, call, or email as they become available. If customers are trying to reach Charter, they can do so through the Spectrum app or by calling us at 1-833-267-6094. And then finally, I'm pleased to let you know that Charter has committed $250,000 in cash contributions to support Hurricane Helene relief efforts across our southeastern footprint. These contributions will assist organizations in providing much needed aid and assistance to impacted communities. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Any questions? Okay, well, thank you very much, Catherine. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I've got one more. Cox Communications.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Karen Fry. I am the Market Vice President for Cox Communications here in Middle Georgia. I'm responsible for the overall leadership and operations in the Middle Georgia market, which covers Bibb County, Houston County, part of Peach County, part of Monroe County. We have about 150 employees and around 100,000 customers in the area. Overall, Cox in Middle Georgia was very fortunate throughout the storm. Our teams were well prepared going into it. In the aftermath of the storm, we had nearly 10% of our customers down, but that was mainly related to power issues. So they were back online once power was restored. We did not have any impacts to any of our facilities. We did not need to bring in any additional resources. And on Monday, September 30th, once our customers offline normalized, we were back to our BAU status. We're just very thankful for the great work that was completed by our local utility partners to ensure our customers were taken care of as quickly as possible.